Have you ever noticed how our relationship with aging has shifted from a quiet acceptance of decline to something resembling an active, high stakes campaign? We used to talk about growing old gracefully. Now, it feels like we are planning a tactical defense against time itself.
It is a fascinating cultural pivot. We are moving away from the traditional model of reactive medicine, where we wait for something to break and then try to patch it up, toward this proactive philosophy of health span. It is not just about adding years to your life, but adding life to those years. And health span is the key term here. Interestingly, this trend is finding a very unique, highly concentrated home in places you might not expect.
Right. You might think of Silicon Valley tech executives trying to live forever on a diet of pills and extreme therapies. But the real epicenter of this boom right now seems to be Utah. There is this massive influx of wellness centers, biohacking labs, and specialized clinics opening up there. Why do you think that particular region has become such a magnet for this industry?
It is a perfect storm of demographics and geography. Utah already ranks ninth in the nation for life expectancy, has the lowest smoking rates in the country, and consistently tops the rankings for the best states to live in. The people there are naturally active. They are hikers, skiers, and cyclists. So, the business bet is simple. If you have a population that is already highly invested in physical activity, they are going to be the first ones willing to pay a premium to keep doing those activities for as long as humanly possible. They do not just want to survive, they want to conquer the next mountain, even at 80.
So it is less about chasing immortality in a lab and more about maintaining the ability to live an active outdoor lifestyle. That actually changes the whole image of who a biohacker is. When we hear the term biohacking, we often picture futuristic sci fi chambers. But who is actually walking through the doors of these clinics?
That is the most surprising part. The owners of these new centers, like the ones opening franchise locations in Park City, are finding that their clientele is not the ultra wealthy elite looking for eternal youth. It is everyday people who are simply in pain. It is the skier who took a bad fall on the slopes, the grandparent who realizes they can no longer bend down to pick up their grandchild, or someone dealing with chronic neuropathy who has forgotten what it feels like to walk without discomfort. They are using things like red light therapy, cryotherapy, and advanced body scans not as some futuristic experiment, but as a practical path to recovery.
It sounds like a democratization of physical therapy, but rebranded with a high tech edge. I mean, stories of people regaining sensation in their feet after a few months of red light therapy sound almost miraculous, even if it is just biology at work. But how do we separate the genuine science from the marketing hype? With any gold rush, there are bound to be people selling fool's gold.
That is a crucial point, and it is why we are seeing a significant shift in who is running these places. It is no longer just wellness, influencers, and tech entrepreneurs. Traditional medical doctors who spent decades in family medicine are leaving the established healthcare system to start these longevity practices. For instance, you have physicians who spent over 20 years in traditional family medicine now launching concierge practices built entirely around prevention. They are frustrated by what they call sick care, where insurance dictates that you can only treat a disease after it has already manifested. They want the time and resources to look at biomarkers years before a disease develops.
That shift from sick care to health span makes sense intellectually, but it also raises some systemic questions. If doctors are leaving traditional family medicine to open concierge clinics, does that leave the average patient behind? It feels like we might be creating a two-tiered system where only those who can afford specialized clinics get preventative care, while everyone else is stuck with reactive medicine.
That is the shadow side of this boom. When you transition to a concierge model, you are inevitably limiting the number of patients you can see so you can give deeper, more personalized attention to a select few. It is a highly premium service right now. The hope, of course, is the classic trajectory of technology. What starts as an expensive luxury eventually scales, costs come down, and the practices become mainstream. But in the short term, there is definitely a gap.
And yet, when you look at the actual recommendations coming out of these high end clinics, a lot of it seems surprisingly basic. If you strip away the cryotherapy chambers, the neurofeedback, and the AI driven resistance machines, what are they actually telling people to do?
You hit the nail on the head. If you ask these longevity doctors what the most effective tools are, they will tell you the exact same things your grandmother did. Get enough sleep, manage your stress, eat whole foods, get outside in the sunlight, move your body every day, stay socially connected. Those things do 90% of the work. The high tech treatments are the extra 5 or 10% on top, but because the basics are free and require daily discipline, they are hard to sell. It is much easier to sell a session in a cold chamber than it is to convince someone to turn off their phone an hour before bed.
It is the human desire for a silver bullet, right? We would rather pay for a high tech intervention than change our daily habits. But there is also something interesting about the business culture of this longevity movement. Instead of a cutthroat corporate battle, many of these clinic owners are forming networks, referring clients to one another, and collaborating. Why do you think they are playing nice instead of competing?
Because the market is expanding so rapidly that they do not need to fight over a small pie. The pie is growing every day. Plus, they realize that no single facility can offer everything. One place might focus on cellular recovery, another on cognitive training, and another on advanced diagnostics. By building a network, they create a stronger ecosystem that validates the entire industry. It builds trust. And trust is the most valuable currency when you are asking people to try unconventional therapies.
It is a clever strategy. But let us look at this from a broader, perhaps more philosophical perspective. If we successfully extend the healthy years of our lives, what does that do to the structure of society? If the average person is living actively into their 90s or hundreds, how does that change our concepts of retirement, career paths, and even family dynamics?
It completely disrupts the traditional three-stage life model of education, work, and retirement. If you are healthy and mentally sharp at 75, the idea of sitting on a beach for 30 years might not appeal to you. We might see people having second or third careers. The economic implications are massive too. On one hand, you reduce the burden of chronic disease on the healthcare system, which is currently astronomical. On the other hand, Social Security and pension systems were designed around the assumption that people would not live decades past retirement.
It forces us to redefine what a successful life looks like. If we are no longer racing against a rapid decline in our 50s or 60s, maybe we can afford to take more risks earlier in life or take our time figuring out what we want to do. But it also means we have to confront the reality of aging. Even with the best biohacking, we cannot escape mortality. Do you think this focus on longevity is sometimes a form of denial?
Absolutely. There is a fine line between wanting to live a vibrant, pain free life and being terrified of the natural process of aging. The danger of the longevity industry is that it can commodify our fear of death. If we view every wrinkle, every drop in hormone levels, or every slow morning as a failure of our biohacking protocol, we create a new kind of anxiety. True wellness has to include acceptance of our limitations.
That is a profound distinction. Longevity should be about enhancing the quality of our experiences, not just hoarding time. If you are spending all your energy and money trying to prevent aging, are you actually living or are you just managing your decline?
Exactly. The goal should be to keep the engine running smoothly so you can enjoy the journey, not to become so obsessed with the dashboard that you forget to look out the window. The best longevity protocol is the one that allows you to forget about your health because your body is simply doing what you need it to do.
That seems like the perfect place to wrap this up. The longevity gold rush is definitely here, and while the high-tech tools are exciting, the true gold might just be the simple, everyday habits we often overlook. It is about keeping the body strong enough to keep exploring, whether that means skiing down a mountain in Utah or just taking a walk in the park.
Well said. The technology will keep evolving, but the fundamentals of a good life remain unchanged. It is not about living forever, it is about being fully present for the time we have.
Thank you for sharing these insights today. And to everyone listening, perhaps the best next step is to step away from the screen, get outside, and take a deep breath of fresh air. Until next time.